asking you, Reid, how did you get the role of in Veep of Dan Egan? Yeah, how did that work out?
I read the script in, oh God, I guess that must have been like late 2010, and instantly fell in love with it. And the casting, one of the casting directors out of New York, Jen Houston, is an old friend of mine. She gave me, some of my, or was working on with the casting office that gave me some of my very first gigs, like 13 years ago, and we struck up a nice little friendship. And she got in touch with me and said that this part of Dan Egan's a really fun part, but kind of a tricky part in that it needs to be played by a guy who can be an asshole but still be likable. And she said that I was the most likable asshole she knows. So it's kind of a backhanded compliment. But I went in there and we sort of just played around with it and cut together like a nice little tape. And like I think a week later, I was meeting with Armando Iannucci, the creator, and Frank Rich and Chris Scott, two of the executive producers. And yeah, it just seemed like a really natural fit from day one.
And you talk about Armando Iannucci. Had you seen any of his stuff before Veep?
Yeah, just before I met with them, just kind of coincidentally, I had just seen In the Loop, and I loved it. I thought it was one of the better movies of the year. I wasn't familiar with The Thick of It, the British show that Veep is very closely sort of related to or based on, I guess. But then actually once I read the script and met with Armando, I went back and sort of watched a lot of The Thick of It, and I saw what Veep could be sort of based on what they had done with The Thick of It, and it made me even more excited because I thought that was a fantastic series.
Yeah. And what do you say? What do you think of Anna Klumsky in The Loop? And when did you find out she was also going to be in the project?
She was great in The Loop. She and Zach Woods working off together was hilarious. And I think everybody my generation sort of grew up on My Girl, so it was sort of fun to see her because I hadn't seen her in anything in a while. And she was involved early on. She was in one of the early meetings that I had too. They sort of they wanted to see how we sort of worked together, and we got along great. And I think we both had very clear takes on our characters and how they would sort of face off against one another. And yeah, it's been fun working opposite her. She's great.
Yeah. And with what is it like working with Armando Iannucci? Like, what's his style like? Yeah, how does that all work on set and things?
He's fantastic. He's kind of an actor's dream, really, to work with, in that he trusts actors maybe a little more than he should to sort of take the characters that he's created and then just let us sort of run with them. The process is really unusual. We actually, for a television series, we have a lot of rehearsal, which usually does not exist. You get that in theater, obviously. When you're working on a feature, sometimes you get a couple weeks of rehearsal just before you jump in. But on a series, there's usually just no time. But Armando is very big on carving out that time, finding that time, giving the actors a lot of material in advance, which also is very rare. And then we improv a lot of our rehearsals with the writers present, and they'll go back and actually retool the scripts based on some of the stuff that we found or that we volunteered or that we brought to the rehearsal process. So by the time we're actually shooting it, it feels very organic to us. It feels like these are words that would come out of our characters' mouths. And then even when we're shooting, Armando's very big on sort of giving us, he calls them one for fun, a take or two to just sort of do whatever we want with it, as long as we're sort of hitting, the points on the roadmap of the scene. And I think that's what, gives Veep its sort of, feel of authenticity. It's sort of, that realism that people seem to really be sparking to it. It comes out of Armando's willingness to sort of, let us just run and see what happens.
Are the one for funs ever used in the show?
Oh, constantly. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in every scene there's at least a shot or a cut or sometimes an entire scene that's really us just sort of going off the rails. A lot of pretty much all the little stuff that comes after the credits, that's all improv. That's all just us just sort of staying in character, to sort of just seeing what happens. but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of improv and a lot of the fun ones sort of scattered in throughout each episode.
I guess like being on HBO or another cable network would be the same. You have a bit more freedom and flexibility. You're crafting sort of 10 episodes as opposed to having to go through sort of 24, and it'd be, I guess, harder to find that time if you're on a network schedule to hone that improv.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think HBO is kind of the cream of the crop in terms of cable. And I think with good reason. I think they sort of have a long-standing tradition of cultivating projects that they believe in. So I don't think they feel like they need to meddle in the creative process. They're wonderfully smart, and from what I understand so far, every time they do give a note, it's always impeccable, and it's actually really on point. So I think unlike a lot of the other networks where they sort of feel like they have to give notes, I think HBO only gives a note, if they really, need something addressed. And from what I've heard, 9 times out of 10, it's actually right on. So they're a wonderful company to work for. They're very, very supportive of us. And, most importantly, they let us do our thing.
Well, with your thing as Dan Egan on the show, I'd argue maybe the least loyal character in Selena's stuff. What's it like playing him as a character who's, especially this season, we saw had his foot sort of in, or his finger in as many pies as he possibly could have.
Yeah, he's a blast to play. I gotta be honest. He's sort of become a way for me to exercise my demons, and all the prickish things that I probably censor myself from doing in my waking life. Dan does, with gusto. Yeah, and he is fun because he's a little bit outside this office. He was sort of the last one to sort of come in. He's kind of a hired gun. I think you nailed it. He's certainly like the least loyal of the bunch. Everything he does in some fashion really just sort of serves him in the end. And it's a fun character to navigate, to see, how he sort of plans out his little chess moves professionally, and how every single thing he does has some sort of payoff in the end, or he's trying to design it that way. But it's a lot of fun to play.
But I guess Dan's also the quickest in some ways at course change. You have these scenes where he finds out something's happened differently, or something else is said, and you just see him quickly get up and go and make the next next message and next text and things. How's it playing stuff like that where he's making decisions so quickly?
It's hard. He's a frenetic guy. Certainly, he's always on the move. I liken him to a shark. As soon as he stops moving, he dies. It's confusing at times because he has so many agendas, and he's loyal to none. So he seems to be okay with selling any belief out, any person out, even himself out, if he thinks in the end it'll sort of serve him. So yeah, he's a kind of a butterfly. He sort of like floats from agenda to agenda, and in the end he doesn't really care as long as somehow he benefits. But it's tough a little bit. There were definitely moments where I had to go to Armando or some of the other writers or producers or directors and say to them like, okay, so why am I doing this? What's going on here? Because I was just sort of on the same side as that guy, and now I'm trying to sell him out. So why exactly is that happening? And they'll break it down for me, and I'll be like, okay, all right, yeah, I guess that makes sense. All right, here we go. Let's just try it and see what happens. And then in the end, I think they sort of find a lot of the choices in the editing room.
Does Dan have any redeeming qualities?
Sure, yeah. He's intelligent. He's witty. He's charming. But I think all of those are sort of muddled by the fact that he's also backstabbing. and self-serving and conniving and Machiavellian, but he couldn't do all of those things if somehow he wasn't kind of likable, or if he couldn't get people to trust him even for a minute.
So it's more like he's just channeling his good qualities for bad.
Yeah, he's actually exploiting himself, just like he's exploiting everyone else around him.
Oh, that's great. So who do you think? Did you have a highlight from Dan on season 2 of Veep? Just something that you love doing?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Like at the very beginning of season 2, we were sort of talking to the writers and Armando and some of the directors about the direction that our characters were going to go. And Armando pulled me aside and he said, first of all, Armando's a huge fan of delivering the unexpected. Just when you think the character is going to do something or the show is going to go in a certain direction, he loves to sort of flip that on its head. And he came to me and said, season 1, we saw Dan have the answer for everything. He was always the go-to guy, the man with the plan. And in season 2, Armando told me that we wanted to explore what it would be like for Dan to never quite get anything right, to always sort of be screwing something up. We wanted to sort of see Dan at a loss, to see Dan, constantly striking out, and then how does he move from there, sort of from this place of professional panic. And at first it's a hard pill to swallow. Even as an actor, you sort of, you kind of fall in love with your character, and you love that this guy always seems to win, and always, he seems to be like a professional MacGyver. And then to sort of have to change gears, the very next season and say, okay, now he's going to be, just sort of whiffing at everything he does. It took me a minute or two to sort of wrap my head around that and exactly how to embrace it. But it became really fun. And I think the Helsinki episode was a highlight for me, where he's just constantly having to apologize to everyone. He just keeps screwing up, and he can't quite get it right. That stood out to me as a highlight.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're an awards website, and we love talking about the Emmy Awards in particular. And last year, Veep was able to get in for Best Comedy Series at the Emmys, crack into that big category in their first year. What was that like, that whole Emmy experience?
It was overwhelming. I've had the good fortune to work on, shows that have been very well received, but nothing that sort of, came blasting out of the gates the way Veep did. It was my first time at the Emmys, and it was cool, man. It was a fun experience, but after 6 or 7 continuous nights of glad handing and smiling and dressing up and walking red carpets and all the partying and drinking that goes on, it's a whole nother skill set that I'm still trying to work on. Yeah.
And Julia was able to win.
Yeah, we were so psyched for her. It was, that was the real highlight. We were thrilled to be there, that we were even, sort of in the running for something like that. But the fact that she took it home was it was so sweet. And P.S., I think we all really think that she deserves it. I think she's done a phenomenal job with this character, and it never really stops. I keep sort of pinching myself every day that we're on set that I'm working alongside the likes of a true comedy legend in Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and she's the best. She really is.
And really, it's a great ensemble too. Aside from Julia, I was surprised that you guys didn't get nominated for the Screen Actors Guild for Best Ensemble the past year. Yeah, who's your favorite person in the ensemble to work with or work off?
Oh man, I really don't think I have a favorite. We all have so much fun. I've had, like, Tony Hale is just wonderful. He's such a fantastic physical comedian. Tim Simons, the way our two, he plays Jonah, the way our two characters really sort of butt heads, that's always fun. Matt Walsh, who plays Mike, our characters were very, much sort of synced up and having to work side by side a lot this season. So I definitely don't have a favorite. I feel very lucky to be working in such a strong ensemble that I love our scenes when we're all together, to be honest. That's my favorite, because then it's just rapid fire. It's really great.
Did you guys give Tony Hale a hard time for sneaking off to Arrested Development this past year?
No, we were really excited. I'm a huge Arrested Development fan, so I was just excited that they were going back to shoot some more. And the episodes turned out great. We're all so proud of Tony, and he's Buster, man. It's again, talk about working alongside another legend. He's always going to be Buster to me.
Yeah, definitely. With on Veep, if you were to get nominated for an Emmy for Best Supporting Actor, the process is that you have to submit an episode to get judged by, and it's always fun to talk about our favorite episodes. So, what episode do you think you'd submit to the Emmy judges?
I think the Helsinki episode from this season, or the finale too. I mean, there was some great stuff. When Dan sort of blows up a Chung and shoots himself in the foot. That was a great scene. I don't know. It's hard to think about. They do sort of make us go through those motions and submit episodes and stuff, which is a new experience for me. And I don't know. It's hard to pick one, and it's hard to sort of like think about myself in that light. Very flattering, but I don't know. To me, it's really just more about the experiencing the experience of making the show as a whole. It's hard to sort of pick out one episode here and there that really sort of is your favorite. But and then sometimes there's episodes that you had a blast working on that maybe was sort of light for your character. But so I don't know. That's a good question. I'll leave that to my publicist.
Well, we've also got I guess with that season final, it was a big final. It was pretty exciting stuff, and it looks like you guys might be running for president in the next couple of seasons on Veep. Yeah. That's sort of a change in direction for the show.
It is. I love that. Again, you got to sort of tip your hat to Armando Iannucci. It's a really bold thing to do, after 2 seasons of a show to make a huge change like that, to really turn a sharp corner. And it's going to be fun to see, how these storylines sort of, roll out. But it's exciting as well. I'm really looking forward to get back to it.
Do you see, I do remember the old British series, Yes, Minister, then ended up becoming Yes, Prime Minister. Do you think that there's a chance that Veep could one day become, I don't know, POTUS or something like that?
I don't know. That's funny. I think Walsh and Tim and I were sort of joking about that if she does win, we would change the show's name to Peep or something. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be cool to see. And we're I got to be honest, we're all in the dark on that. I think we'll sort of just discover it as it goes.
Yeah, definitely. So, are there any guest stars you'd love to see on Veep?
Oh God, we've had so many great ones so far. I know at one point they went to, or actually one of our producers, Frank Rich, happened to be having dinner with Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick, and Kevin asked him, what was Frank working on? And he said, I'm doing this show called Veep, and Kevin said, oh my God, that's my favorite show. So, that was really cool for all of us, because I think we're all, big Kevin Bacon fans. So I don't know if there's a way to get him on an episode, that would be really cool.
Now, we've got a question in our chat room from Surprise Lover on a slightly different tangent. And it says, was there any talk of you coming back to the Big C, and did you like the way it ended?
There was some talk about me coming back to the Big C, although, and I would have loved to. I really have a huge soft spot for that show. I think it ended up being more of a schedule thing, that where they were sort of ramping up for their season right when we were doing our season for Veep. And I got to be honest, I still have it TiVo'd. I have not seen the final episode, so I don't know how it ends.
Do you think it was a good move them for the final, doing sort of a bit more of a mini-series type way to end it off?
I think so, yeah. I like that. I think, now there's so many different formats for audiences to follow. I mean, you can get your shows, in 8-episode, series. There's 13 episodes. I think it was really interesting to sort of make it, 4-hour-long episodes for this, it's a nice way to sort of tie it up and give it a little more weight, a little more gravitas. I think that's a really interesting move.
And it means Laura Linney can win the Emmy for miniseries, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus can win the Emmy for comedy series that don't need to compete anymore. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. They could both be up there.
Yeah. So we've also got Reid. I think we'll end on this. Are there any politicians you'd like to see guest star on Veep? Like we saw a cameo. Yeah, we saw a cameo from Joe Biden in Parks and Rec this past season.
Yeah. I mean, God, if we could get Joe, that'd be great. But I'd love to see Al Gore walk through. And I mean, come on, if we could get Bubba, if we could get Clinton, that would be huge. I'm sure that's a giant long shot, but that'd be really cool.
Do you think would you want them to play politicians, or would you want them to play other people?
I think it'd be funny to see them play somebody else, someone sort of like not so successful, like, like a low level, I mean, come on, let's have Al Gore play a security guard or something like that. That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks so much for chatting with us, Reid, about Veep, about Dan, about the Emmys, and about TV. It's been a lot of fun, and all the best of luck with Veep Season 3 and with the Emmys.
Thank you very much.